What's up, you guys, and welcome back to As Told by Gigi 101. Today is Tuesday, which means that it is time for a recap, review, whatever, of my favorite Tuesday 8 o'clock on Freeform night show, Pretty Little Liars. So, this episode of Pretty Little Liars completely continued from last week's episode. In this episode, we see the return of two characters, Janelle Parrish, which we really haven't seen at all so far this season, even though I think we're only on, episode 3 of this season. But I just feel like we really haven't seen Janelle Parrish's character, Mona Vanderwall, in a while. And we see the return of Jenna, I forgot her last name, but Toby Kavanaugh's, stepsister. I always want to call her Jenna Marbles, but, whatever. Jenna. So we see the return of that. So in this episode, this is after they have killed Elliot Rawlings and them trying to come up with this master plan of how to play it off. They come up with the bright idea of burying his body. They were going to torch his car. And basically, they sneak Allison back in. Aria does. They take his ID card. They sneak Allison back in. The plan is that they're going to drop off Elliot's car at a station, and then Spencer is supposed to go and buy the ticket. They have the timing exactly lined up, and this episode was almost like the spin off of how to create the perfect murder, or how to get away with murder. Everything, especially in today's era with technology and everything being so technical, timing is so precise, and they have everything all planned off. But of course, things start to go horrifically awry. For one, Spencer is going through stuff with Caleb because while they're trying to clean up, Caleb comes to the door and tries to talk to her and reminisce about how, he got offered a job, but he chose not to take it because he wanted to try and be with her. And she's like, I can't do this right now. And not because she didn't want to, but because she didn't want to involve him in what they had just done. And on top of that, Hannah was right there listening. And so everybody was crying. Caleb was crying because he felt like he really lost Spencer. Spencer was crying because here was her chance to get back with him, and he was really proving to her that he loved her, and she couldn't involve him in what just happened. And then there's Hannah, who's just there, she's not with Jordan anymore, and she's hurt because she was once in love with Caleb too. I still don't understand. It was just a very complicated emotional scene because, you want to feel bad for Spencer and you want to feel bad for Hannah, and it's just a complete emotional roller coaster of emotions. It's a sea of emotions. So, with that going on, Spencer is back at the bar and she's with Emily, and Emily's like, okay, so you're gonna leave at this time and you're gonna buy the train ticket, we're gonna park his car, da 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 da, and they're like, yeah, that's fine. So Hannah's like, okay, not Hannah, I'm sorry, Emily is like, it's time to go. Spencer's like, no, let me keep up my pathetic end of the girl bar story going. And she decides to say after Emily leaves, because Emily's supposed to go back to Elliot and Allison's house and pack up his bag and kind of get rid of all that stuff. So Emily goes to do that, and Spencer is getting ready to leave, but then, the new bartender gives her a drink, and she's like, I didn't order this, and he's like, I know, he did. So the screen starts to move to the guy who did it, and we all, I think, were hoping that it was Caleb, but it was just this random Latin guy. I don't know where he came from. Maybe we'd seen him and they crossed paths before on the show, but his face did not strike a chord with me. But just kind of the looks that they gave each other, it made it seem like maybe they did. I don't really know. So, Spencer decides, she sees the camera and she decides, okay, this is going to be a really good alibi. So she decides to say and, kind of get drinks with him or whatever and play up his flirting. So while she's doing that, Emily's at the house packing up his stuff and this, that, and the third. Aria and Hannah go back to the forest where everything was to torch the car, and the car's not there. So obviously it's just this is the beginning of the end of their perfect plan. Everything is going horrifically awry at this point. So they're freaking out. Aria's like, maybe you put it somewhere else and we just came in from the wrong way. Hannah's like, no, I put it exactly at one specific tree because it reminded me of Keebler elves. And I'm like, classic Hannah, but okay. So they're freaking out trying to find the car, looking around, and, who was it? Arya or Hannah made a sarcastic remark about cars not driving off by themselves, and they look down and they see that there are tire tracks, which means someone did take the car. Next thing we know, the car pulls up and they're like, oh my god, what is happening? And it is Mona! I don't know about you guys, but I love Mona. Mona is that character that you just love to hate. Even when she was the first A back in the very, very, very beginning of the show, I still really, really, really loved Mona. And, everybody's just like, what is going on? So they all sit down for like a powwow at the Radley Hotel and have brunch, and, Mona is basically explaining that there's a burner phone and that she started following Elliot after Hannah went missing and all this different stuff, and she ends up helping them. She takes the car that they were driving that Elliot's head goes through the windshield. She has that fixed. She brings it back. They're all like, what is going on? I don't understand. Mona's like, I'm just trying to help. And, they all sit down and they're having brunch and they're talking about this burner phone that no one can find, this, that, and the third. And they're plotting how they're going to find it. And actually right before that, we see Emily and Spencer. We see Emily and Spencer have like a powwow or whatever, because Emily wants to know how could Spencer get so trashed. With PS, she kind of like hooked up, like, old school hooked up definition, like back when I was in like middle school, when hooked up means you just made out with someone. She hooked up with that guy at the bar and then was like, I can't do this in the elevator. True Ezra and Arya season 1 episode 1 style. And she's like, I can't do this. She calls Emily and she tells Emily, Emily's like, did you do it? And she's like, I really can't right now. Emily can tell she's drunk, and they have this whole powwow about, how Spencer's like, I really thought I was free, but I'm never going to be free and I can't do this anymore. So that happens, and then they have the brunch. So sorry I didn't include that part. So Spencer obviously does not want to drink any more liquor, probably for the rest of her life, and while they're having brunch, she decides to go get some orange juice. That's when she and Hannah talks, and she really doesn't want to talk to Hannah. She hasn't told the rest of the girls that Caleb and Hannah kissed or whatever. She just told Emily right before she got drunk at the bar. And, she says to Hannah, I just need to be mad at you, and if you want to be a good friend, you'll let me be mad at you for a little bit longer. And Hannah gives her a word of advice that she needs to go see Caleb because he's worth the fight, and tell him everything that happened. So she decides to leave, and when she leaves to go find Caleb actually left. And it kind of reminds us of the flashback from last season, the second half of the 5-year forward, that beginning half, where we find out how, Hannah and Caleb came to an end. It was almost exactly like that. So that part happened, and while she's looking for Caleb, Hannah and Mona go back to Lucas's apartment, and they're all like, oh my gosh, I can't ping and find the phone. And she's like, what are you talking about? And she's like, I can't ping into the network because I don't have the burner phone's number. And Hannah's like, don't even explain it. I'm not going to understand. And Hannah just starts breaking down, and Mona's trying to tell her it was an accident killing Elliot, and she's like, I thought it was, but every time I see Elliot, I think of being locked up in like that horse barn and what he did to me, and I'm not sure if it was an accident anymore. So they're sitting down, she's trying to console her, and Mona, in true Mona style, is like, what's going on with the fake ring? She tells her about Jordan and the breakup in very minimal amount of words, and says she doesn't want to tell the rest of them just yet because Caleb and Spencer are going through some stuff, and she really just doesn't want to add on to that. And so while she's looking down at the fake ring, she realizes that she's missing her bracelet. And they ask, when was the last time you saw it? And of course, it had to be when they were in Rawlings' car, which is parked at the freaking train station. So Emily threw the keys in in the gutter, which really didn't make any sense to me, because if you're putting his jacket and his phone on the train, why not put the keys with the jacket? I don't really know. But, you know, Mona jimmies the window open, and she finds her bracelet stuck between the seats in the back, and as they walk off, they hear a phone ringing. They go back to the car, they open this flap underneath the footpad of the car, and they find the frickin' burner phone. While all this is happening on the other side of town, the police are at this new Radley, and Emily and Aria went to go see, what's her name? Allison. Toby was there, and Toby's like, you need to go, we need to talk. So they get there to Spencer's place, and they're like, well, let's wait for Hannah. And they're like, let's not, what's going on? And he tells them that Rawlings is dead, and they're like, what? But he's talking about the fact that Elliot isn't really Elliot Rawlings. He's talking about the real one. And so they kind of all like let go with a sigh of relief. And he's like, well, we're gonna figure it out. He must think that we already know and that we're on to him, da 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 da. And that is what ends up happening. Now, the show ends with the screen going back to Mona and Hannah with the burner phone, and the phone rings, and they answer it. Well, they don't really answer it, but like they turn it on, and it's Jenna. I think her last name is Marshall. And they're like, what? Because the whole question is, because Mona says there's a burner phone, which they didn't know about. She tells them about his fake accent, and she's like, there's somebody on the other end of the line. And Spencer's just so convinced that it's Mary Drake. But then when they hear Jenna, they're kind of confused. So, and then on top of that, Jenna doesn't call him Elliot or Dr. Rawlings. She calls him Archer. And then we go into the previews for next week, where we find out that his name is Archer Dunhill and all this other stuff that's going on. Da-da-da-da-da, woo-woo-woo. So, overall, I just watched the episode like I am so done. Can we get to the end of the season? Can we find out what has been going on? The real truth and nothing else but the truth. So help you, God. Like, I just wasn't into it. I was more into doing my makeup for the video than I was watching this episode, and I kind of feel like this video is going to be crap because I really just was not into the episode. At this point in time, yes, it's like when they do the teasers for next week's episode, it draws you in, and you're like, oh my gosh, what's going to happen? And then you kind of get into the episode, and it's like, womp womp, you know? Like that. So, I mean, you guys, I don't know what to make of this show anymore. I just know that I have no theories. I have no expectations. I have no possibilities. But I will say this. The way that she said, hi, it's Jenna Marshall. Like, I just feel like you don't call someone that you know that you're familiar with and say it like that unless you changed your number and you're trying to just identify yourself. So, I mean, I think that they're trying to make us think that it's Jenna because she magically popped up, you know, like Lucky Charms, magically delicious. She magically popped up, and I think they're trying to get us off on another track. But I've been watching the show for so long that it's like, yeah, no, I don't know who it is, and at this point, I don't really care. I just know I can't wait for this season to be over, which is so sad because I never wanted Pretty Little Liars to end, but I feel like the writing just is not up to par like it has been years before. It could just be me. What do you guys think? Did you watch the episode? How are you feeling about Pretty Little Liars? Please let me know. You can always converse with me in the comments down below because you know I reply to everyone. Or you can hit me up on Twitter, Instagram, XFM, Snapchat. All those things are always linked in the description down below. So just let me know what you're thinking, how you're feeling. Are you feeling the same as me? Are you over the show? Do you feel like because the season finale, the series finale season, that they're rushing it? Like, what? Tell me how you feel, because I feel like there are shows that I've watched where, like they do that, like once it comes to the end. It's almost like CSI Miami. Like for any of you who watch CSI Miami, that last season was absolutely crap. It ended in a cliffhanger, but that really wasn't their fault because they were on the bubble, which means that they had not yet gotten a yay or nay if they were going to return for another season. So they left that season on a cliffhanger and left it to your imagination, and it really, really sucked. And I just kind of feel like that's what's happening with the writers for Pretty Little Liars, which is ridiculous because they knew that this was going to be the last season. But I'm just saying, if you want to do some kind of Sweet Valley High spinoff of Pretty Little Liars, I could be available. And that's all that I have for you guys today. Please stick around because I will soon have my Dead of Summer video up for you. And if you enjoyed this video and you are interested in seeing more videos to come, you can obviously look at old videos and be sure to sub so that way you can join me on more Gigi Meister Merpod adventures. So easy to do. All you gotta do is rate, comment, subscribe, and share because sharing is caring. Loves and likes ya. Bye!